I cut apart the iconic Sorel Caribou boots a few years ago to see why there's like no positive reviews, no positive like video reviews, and turns out there's a good reason why there's no positive talk on the internet about them. It's because they're terrible. They're really poorly made and they've gutted the entire boot. It's no longer the Sorel Caribou boot that built the Sorel name. It is just a shell of its former self. So when I was walking around Shields, just doing a little shopping, personal shopping, I was like, a Sorel Moctober boot that looks traditional and it has like, kind of reminds me of like the Wolverine kind of styling with the gold leaf lettering. I picked it up and I was like, well, that weighs like a half a pound. So we're gonna cut this thing in half and run it through our test to really see if these boots went the way of the Caribou boot, where it's just the look of a higher quality product with none of the substance. Are these good boots or just a cash grab? Are they worth the price based on some other similarly priced boots? And is Sorel just a full sellout at this point? Or is there still some glimmers of a high quality footwear company left in them? Because like I mentioned, they have a decent history, and even on the inside here, it has boots since 1962, because in 1962, Kaufman Rubber Company, located in Ontario, Canada, introduced a line of winter work and sports boot meant for the harsh Canadian winters and were marketed mostly towards men in hunting, farming, and outdoor use. And their most popular one was that Caribou boot. And so if you want to see more of the history, more of that Caribou boot discussion, go watch that video, put it in the links below. What you really need to know is in 2000, that Kaufman Rubber Company went bankrupt and sold the Sorel name to the Columbia Sportswear Ltd. and they bought it for $8 million. And like you might have seen on the channel, we've cut apart some Columbia stuff. You know, it's just another one of these big brands promoting like, we're eco-friendly, we make high quality stuff that's gonna last you a lifetime because we care about the environment, except for when we cut your boots in half, they're full of garbage and they're just made to wear out faster. So that's why I'm curious if these Sorels have gone the way of the big Sorels, the Caribou boots. So what is this boot? Well, the brand is Sorel. The style is the Slabtown 62 men's waterproof Moctober boot. They weigh 1 pound, 2 ounces, like I mentioned, pretty light. They retail for a very boot priced $180. They're made in Vietnam, and the way that they position this product is the Slabtown 62 Moc blends casual aesthetic with work boot functionality. This unique combination offers a fresh, stylish look without compromising on durability and comfort. If you do want a pair of these, check them out via the links in my description, because that description is really what has me concerned about this boot, because the first sentence, they say work boot functionality and durability and comfort. You know, it's like, we'll see. It's just barely over a pound. You know, weight isn't always an indicator of quality and durability, but in more traditional boots, it usually is. This is something that I've wanted for over 10 years, never gotten it, even though we cut thousands and thousands of dollars of footwear in half every single week and month. There's this one item that's in the heritage world that I've never gotten, and it's this wax canvas jacket made by Flint and Tinder, sold through Huckberry. And this to me is like what my holy grail of like the coats. But the cool thing about a wax canvas coat is that wax that is infused into the canvas makes it water resistant, wind resistant, keeps it a little bit warmer. And this canvas is wax on both sides, the inside and the outside. It also has this really warm blanket lining. It's kind of like almost like a flannel lining on the inside for extra warm. And it's handcrafted here in the United States. And maybe the coolest thing is this exact jacket was seen in HBO's The Last of Us. And that's a good example of like what this jacket actually is. It's no different than heritage boots that are super durable, super comfortable, really hard to break in, but made out of old school materials. Same thing with this coat. What this coat really is a heritage alternative to like your Arc'teryx water resistant, wind resistant, insulated jacket that just falls apart. You catch it on one sharp little thing, your whole jacket's ruined. That's where this shines, because this is like a heavy duty heritage. I'm not getting cold chills talking about it. It takes more maintenance, takes more break-in, but there's certain features you can only get in this kind of coat. And that's why I've wanted it for over 10 years, and I'm finally glad I have it. Getting cold chills because I'm so hyped about it. Let's put it on. Yes, look at it. And it actually fits. I've got 6'6" wingspan, 6'4" XL, fits me perfect. So check it out below. Get yourself your holy grail jacket like me by Flint and Tinder from huckberry.com. And thanks again to Huckberry for sponsoring this video. So let's start looking at the material, starting with the leather first, because this is a waterproof leather with a suede tongue. Is it real leather? It is, surprisingly, because it kind of feels like fake leather. And the quality of leather is really not too bad. It is a little bit dry. It's a little bit foamy, but it's really, I was surprised that it was an actual leather and that it was a decent enough leather, because it's 2 millimeters thick, about the end of what you see for boot thickness thickness leather from 2 to like 3.5 if you're getting really crazy. The puncture test took 157 pounds, which is pretty good. There's not a heavy plastic coating on top. We burned it, and it burns more like a cheap leather that doesn't have a lot of oils and compounds worked into it. It's just a little bit drier of a leather. But honestly, not bad leather at all, you know, especially for a sub $200 boot. But what about the inside? If you look inside, usually this kind of boot's either unlined, or if they're more work function, they usually have like that chevron kind of moisture wicking lining. This is just a canvas, which I don't mind canvas. I like canvas. It's just an odd choice for something that's supposed to be like a work boot oriented. And it does have an internal counter cover, which I also really like. It's not leather, but at least it's something. And then up at the vamp, it's just like a really cheap sneaker lining. So really the lining of this boot is more like a sneaker, except for that counter cover. Then if you pull out the insole, also very sneaker-ish, you know, just a really cheap perforated insole. It's not terrible by any means, it's just very like a shoe. What's underneath is what's concerning, because even when I was at Shields, I pulled the insole out, like, let's see what's going on inside here. And it was already, the lasting material is already like peeling up, and all that lasting material is underneath the insole is like a sneaker lasting board. Like while I'm talking, I'm like almost like unconsciously like ripping it apart, because you can hear it, listen. You know, and since we're peeling it off, I guess we can even take take a look underneath of it. And as you can see, there's really nothing underneath of it, because this boot is built like a lot of boots, where the upper doesn't just stop when it hits right here. It curls underneath the insole, and that's what locks in that upper, because the upper is sandwiched between the insole and the outsole, binding it together. But when you can just peel the insole out and you look underneath and it's just the upper tucked underneath, it's like, oh, there's nothing really holding this boot together except for a little bit of light glue. So that was a little concerning, because it also tells me that this is not a traditionally made boot. This is a cemented boot, because if you start looking at the midsole and outsole layers, this looks like it's a Goodyear welted boot, because you can see the stitches. They're real thread. They're not fake thread. It's real thread stitching, but it is a little misleading, because you don't need that stitch in there, but also it'd look a little bit goofy if it didn't have a stitch. So it's one of these things I'm always on the fence about. It depends on like the brand and what they're promoting, and if they're trying to pass it off as like a Goodyear welt, or if they're just like, hey, it's a cemented boot. And so we did the waterproof test too, and they say it's waterproof, so much so that it's right there on the heel. One of the issues right off the bat was it's gusseted really, really low. It's only gusseted to there, so if you get in any water above like 3 or 4 inches, you're gonna get water in the inside of your boot. But also, it does not actually waterproof, because we put it in a waterproof tank and water just slowly leaked its way in. And that's because I don't think that there's a waterproof lining in here. They don't talk anything about it. It doesn't seem like it's built in that way. So it's not a waterproof boot. The leather's not waterproof, the boot's not waterproof, there's no waterproof membrane. So they're wrong about that. Sorel, you're busted on that one, especially being Sorel, the company that's known for making we make like winter waterproof, weatherproof, like snowproof boots, and we make a waterproof Moctober boot that's made for work, except for it's not actually waterproof, and so far it looks like it's not even remotely for work either. To me, it feels like a little bit misleading and intentional. And then it doesn't have a midsole, and then the outsole is really, really soft. They call this the Cush grip. It's really soft too. It comes in like a 35 to 40 short A, and I believe it's a polyurethane, because I doubt it's rubber, and they don't really say much about it, but it feels more like a polyurethane. It feels really light and airy, so I'm curious if there's voids in the heel, how this all works, and if there's any saving graces on the inside of this boot, because so far it's all been pretty disappointing. Because I was a little bit hyped on the leather. I was like, at least it's decent leather, except for they claim it's waterproof, and it's not even waterproof. So let's cut them in half and see if there's anything good on the inside of these. Close enough. All right, we got them cut in half, and if you're not subscribed, consider just pushing that little button, because it's how we afford to do this and buy brand new stuff, just to cut in half to show you what to buy and maybe what to avoid. And it's an easy way to support us, because it's free. So is there a waterproof lining? Nope. Is the heel counter leather? Nope. Is there anything else on the inside? Yes, there is actually a shank. Is this technically a shank? I guess, but it doesn't really add any, I guess it adds a little bit of support. And when we had this boot, and I was like, we were cutting, I was like, oh, I don't think we need to wear ear protection. There's no shank in here, because you can do this. It's so small too.
That's what she said.
It's like 3.5 inches long, and it's only like this wide. And just like we expected and suspected, it is not Goodyear welted. It's just a cemented construction. That board, like it's so cheap. It's so cheaply built. Underneath there is a little bit of another material. Other than that, that's literally everything. And there's some voids in the sole. This is built more like a sneaker. This is built like a cheap sneaker with the materials, with the claims, with the way it's constructed. And that's why one of my favorite things about cheap boots is like if they're really cheap, you can just tear them apart. Not all the time, but sometimes. So let's see how Sorel did, because it was already pretty easy to give this a tug and it comes apart. But let's see if the whole boot will, because it feels pretty well cemented. It's pretty tough. Not that tough though. I take it back. The leather's failing before. So it is cemented well, but because they use such cheap materials, see how the leather's ripping? So it is cemented well, but the materials are so cheap that it's literally just like ripping paper. Yeah. Okay. Once again, not that tough though. Because just like last time, the leather ripped. See that? That is not what you want to see. So then are these worth the price based off other similarly priced boots, like the $199 Thursday Diplomat? It speaks for itself. It's got leather, it's got higher quality materials, clearly better. I don't even have to go through it. But some people are gonna be like, well, it's not a traditional boot. It's like a more casual, comfortable boot. So you look at something like a Wolverine, which we didn't review this super positively. It was very much like, well, that's BS. I don't believe that. But there was some good quality parts, like the counter cover and some things. But once again, completely different qualities of construction, qualities of materials. And so much so that really the only boot that I could even think of that was even close to the value of this boot when it comes to all those things was, where did I put it? Here. Was the Nike ACG. This was like an $80 like Nike shoe boot. And would you believe me if I said they are almost the exact same shoe? Like the exact same construction, exact same way of building it, almost down to the exact same way that you can see when the injection molding process, the little screws that go in there are almost identical. The tread is obviously different, but like this is the quality of boot that this Sorel is. So for $180, even comparing to a cheap Nike boot, it's still like, I'd rather have the Nike over this boot. So is it a cash grab by Sorel? Sure seems like one. Sure seems like Sorel's, the whole plan is to just gut the entire Sorel name. They're starting to lose all the faith in all their other products, and it's because they're getting greedy and they're chasing margins, trying to milk as much from their consumer base as possible instead of giving them high quality products. There's gonna be people in the comment section like, my dad had a pair of Caribou boots, I had a pair of Caribou boots, and then in 2000 whatever, I bought one and it was absolute garbage. That's seems to be what's happening across the board with Sorel. So is Sorel a full sellout? Sure seems like it. I have yet to see a good Sorel product that's well priced, that represents the Sorel name and brand. So let me know what you guys think, and maybe I'm off, maybe I missed something. Let me know your opinion on these, but it sure seems like this is a $90 sneaker boot being sold for 180 bucks. So thank you guys, see ya.